Hey there, it's John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to a special edition of the Market Watch, where we're going to look at all things standard as we come out of Protour Amonkhet this past weekend. And it was an incredible weekend. Hopefully you got to watch some of the coverage. I'll tell you, Mardu Vehicles decks didn't look so good this weekend. I know a lot of people were worried about those decks continuing to be dominant, myself included, but they didn't have a good performance. Started out as about a quarter of the field. A lot of them did not even make it to day 2. The decks that did well this weekend were decks like the Aetherworks Marvel decks, which we saw a lot of different variants of that deck, but all of them looked really strong, quite honestly. The other big deck of the weekend, of course, was Zombies. We saw a mono black version that actually was the one that won the Pro Tour, being piloted by Jerry Thompson, and we also saw a black-white version of that particular deck as well. They looked incredible. You're going to see all that information kind of be processed into the market this week, and we're already seeing huge impacts in prices. So, quickly before we get started looking at individual cards, just a fast reminder, if you check out the description below, you'll find a couple ways to help support the channel, one of which is our Amazon affiliate store. If you make any purchases through any of those links, it could be the singles we talk about today, or just any other products, a small percentage will come back to help support the channel. Also down below, you'll find a link to our Patreon page. We're really close to our next Patreon goal, so check that out if you get a chance. Having said that, let's get into the cards. We're going to begin with the cards that lost value this week. Now, you're going to notice a few things here. For the most part, the values of cards are not really going down super strong, even if a card didn't see a lot of play this weekend. And that's mostly because players have learned, especially over the last couple metas, that what we see out of the Pro Tour can change very drastically 2, 3, 4, or 5 weeks down the road. So what you're going to find here is players that have cards that have been big performers in the past, they're not really anxious to get rid of those cards quite yet, but you will see at least some indications that they didn't have a big showing this past weekend. Coming in at number 10 is Grim Flyer, down 52 cents to 17.19. Now, this is a perfect example of what I just mentioned. This card has had tremendous success in the past in Standard. Not a big showing this weekend, but players aren't necessarily trying to sell all their copies yet. It's just declining a little bit at 52 cents. Coming in at number 9 is Saheeli Rai, down 74 cents to $7. Now, she's lost a lot of value due to the banning of Felidar Guardian, obviously. Without Copycat in the format anymore, this card's value just goes down quite a bit. However, she is still seeing a little bit of play here and there in some Planeswalker-centric decks. It's just not enough for her to hold a lot of value at this point, though. Coming in, number 8 is Nissa, Steward of Elements, down 89 cents to $13.95. This is another card that's seeing play in those Planeswalker decks. It's not a deck that had any big impact to the Pro Tour or anything like that, unfortunately, so I kind of expect those decks to start to fade away a little bit, especially as the meta becomes tighter. However, this card does have some long-term potential. I mean, she's got a long life ahead of her in Standard, and I think she's a very powerful card when you look at raw power. So maybe in the future, perhaps post-rotation, she could have a moment in the sun. So don't forget about this card. I do think she'll continue to decline for now, though. I feel like she's more a $8, $9 card. I feel like that's more of a fair price than where she's at right now. Coming in at number 7 is Glorybringer, down 98 cents to $7. Now, I expected this card to have a little bit of a spike this week due to the fact that I expected Mardu Vehicles to look a little better in the Pro Tour, maybe have a copy or two in the top 8. And if that was the case, Glorybringer probably would have been one of the feature cards coming out of that deck. That just plain didn't happen. So because of that, yeah, this card's trending down. Also, it's an Amonkhet rare. It's not a mythic. A lot of packs are being opened to this card. That's going to help keep its value down as well. Coming in at number 6, Tattered Mummy, down $1 to $1.39. Now, I talked a lot about this card last week, and I basically said this was really misleading inflation. The reason it was going up in value, some folks were gravitating towards this because it was a zombie when they were trying to brew their zombie decks. But we saw from this weekend, it did not play a role in any of the major decks or anything like that. But really, the reason the card started to go up was simply due to the fact that it was from the Liliana Planeswalker decks. And single sellers aren't going to crack a bunch of those open to sell singles. It just doesn't benefit them. So in the singles market, this card is going to be pretty hard to find. It's going to dry up really fast. But it's misleading because it's not a rare card. I mean, you can simply go to your local game store, your Walmart, your Target, and pick up that deck and get copies of this card. It's very simple. So once players kind of decide they're just going to go ahead and do that, well, the card's going to drop dramatically. So yeah, this is one of those examples to watch for again in the future as we see cards from these Planeswalker decks, because this isn't the first time, this won't be the last time that you'll see this kind of inflation. Coming in at number 5 is As Foretold, down $1 to $8.30. This card has a lot of potential in the future. I think it's doing well in some small modern leagues right now. There is a As Foretold control deck. Obviously, this card plays really well with suspend cards. And if one of those decks can eventually put up a big result in a real big modern tournament, well, this card will definitely jump up and spike, no doubt. So watch this one in the future. Right now, the reason it's maintaining the value it is maintaining is really more so because of Commander. If you're a Commander player that hasn't picked up a copy of this card yet, maybe in a week or so, you'll be able to pick it up for, I don't know, $6, $7. That might be a fair price. I wouldn't wait too long, though, just in case it overperforms in Modern. Coming in number 4, Harsh Mentor, another good Modern card potentially in the future, down $1.07 to $3.53. Now, this one's a rare, not a mythic, so it's going to lose its value faster. But again, the Modern format's going to evolve slower than Standard. Standard gets the big push out of the gate because of the Pro Tour. But when you come to something like Modern, players are going to be a little more methodical about changing some of their established decks. So it's going to take a little more time. Could this show up in like an Aya Burn and do well? Yeah, you know, it could at some point. And if it does, you can expect this card to start to go up a little bit. Coming in at number 3, Torrential Gearhulk. Now, this is a card that had a bittersweet weekend. This had a big spike going into the Pro Tour about a week ago, as a lot of folks were starting to speculate that this would be the control finisher. There's always control decks, Jeskai control decks. They were running this as their finisher. The problem was, these decks didn't perform really well in the scheme of things. They were overshadowed by the Marvel decks and by the zombie decks. So, because of that, the card was starting to look down, but on the other side of the coin, guess what? Some of the Aetherworks Marvel decks were running this card, and it looked pretty good in those builds. So that's going to help the card a little bit. Now, having said all of that, a lot of packs of Kaladesh have been opened. Yes, this is a mythic, but there's a lot of copies out there. There's a lot of blue-white Flash players that are probably sitting on a whole bunch of copies of these from a few months back that are happy to sell them at $20, $25 a pop, I'm sure. So this card is going to start declining in price like we're seeing now. It won't completely bottom out. It will still be a big player as we go forward in its lifetime in Standard, but I feel like this is probably more of a $15 card than a $25, $26 card. Coming in at number 2, Ronos, the Indomitable, down $1.12 to $16. This is another card that just is basically riding on the back of Commander at this point. Great Commander card. A lot of hope for this card in Standard, but it really hasn't performed yet. It's got a long time to go, though, so don't count it out. Maybe post-rotation or in the future, this card could do well. Coming in at number 1, Gideon of the Trials, down $2.56 to $19.95. In some ways, no surprise because this was the highest valued card coming out of the pre-release time, so you would expect it to come down a little bit. The card really hasn't grabbed onto the Standard format like a lot of people anticipated. There are a lot of folks, I think back to when Chandra from Kaladesh was first revealed, it wasn't as hyped as that card necessarily, but a lot of people thought it was going to have a huge impact at the Pro Tour. It really hasn't. In the future, it could, though. I mean, it's a powerful card. I'd feel a little more comfortable paying $10, $12 for this card than $20, and I think it's going to continue to drop probably down to that price point unless something changes in the meta. But as for right now, it does have potential in a future Standard. It has potential in Modern. It's a good Commander card, so it's definitely one to keep an eye on. Alright, let's move on to the cards that have gained value this week. And as you can imagine, big influences here from Aetherworks Marvel as well as the zombie decks. And if a lot of players that are more casual, maybe they just watch the top 8, those are the decks they saw. I mean, 4 of the Aetherworks decks, 3 zombie decks, and a black-green energy deck. And there's definitely some huge camera time for a lot of those decks, not just on Sunday, but throughout the weekend. So you do want to take that into account. However, there's a few other things you want to remember about cards, especially if they're spiking. You can basically count on the fact that anything that spikes aggressively, especially from a contemporary Magic set that has a lot of cards in circulation, there's going to be a pretty major snapback, especially once players get their copies and the hype starts to die down. Secondly, there is always that nervousness out there about an impending ban. Now, I hope they don't ban anything necessarily from Aetherworks Marvel. I don't know if that would be appropriate or not. Obviously, Wizards is going to look at the data for Magic the Gathering Online over the next few weeks, as well as what happens in major tournaments, and they'll make their determination once it gets closer to 5 weeks from now. However, I do think at this point, if they were to ban something from one of those decks, the zombie decks are just going to get stronger, and Mardu vehicles could potentially make a comeback. I don't know if anyone really wants to see that at this point. So there's a lot of uncertainty in the market, and you do want to be aware of that as the weeks go on. Coming at number 10, though, is New Perspectives, up 224 to 259. Now, there was a small group of players playing a New Perspectives combo deck. I believe they all made it to day 2. It was like 4 or 5 players, something like that. So the deck for combo fans looks pretty good, and they're definitely going to gravitate towards something like this. So at least right now, this card's spiking a little bit. It's not going to be able to hold its value unless they can put up some big results, though. Coming in number 9 is Metallic Mimic, up $266 to $6. Now, there were some brewers working these into zombie decks and other tribal decks early on since Amonkhet came out. However, the big breaking point for this card was when it showed up in a winning deck on the Pro Tour this weekend. And of course, that's Jerry Thompson's deck. He was running 4 of these in his mono black zombie build. So obviously there's going to be a lot of attention on this card. Now, this is a rare from Kaladesh. There's a lot of these things in circulation. This is going to be a temporary increase. Expect to snap back sooner than later. Coming in at number 8, Dread Wanderer, up 301 to 624. Almost the same story here. Another card that just looked great this weekend in Zombies decks. As you can imagine, it was kind of the reoccurring zombie card that those decks wanted to have. But again, it is a rare from a set that is being opened aggressively right now, so it's going to snap back relatively quick. Coming in at number 7 is Liliana's Mastery, up 312 to 399. Another rare from Amonkhet. Keep that in mind, but this one did spike aggressively percentage-wise this week. And a lot of the pros who played the Zombies decks actually said that this card overperformed for them this weekend, so it's definitely one to keep an eye on. Coming in at number 6 is Dark Salvation, up 321 to 399. Now, this is a card that wasn't on everyone's radar going into the Pro Tour, but guess what? The winning deck was running 4 of these, so that is definitely going to put a huge spotlight on this card very fast. And even though it is still a contemporary Magic card, Eldritch Moon is the set that probably got opened the least out of all the contemporary sets. So take that for what it's worth, but this card I think will definitely hold its value around the $3-4 range for a little while. Coming in at number 5, Sphinx of the Final Word, up 325 to 471. Now, this is a little awkward. This card spiked prior to the Pro Tour due to the fact that a lot of folks are speculating that this could be the finisher for control decks. Didn't really pan out. It was more Torrential Gearhulk that took that role. And as a matter of fact, over the last 48 hours or so, this card has already started to come down pretty aggressively. Couple that with the fact that it's really running out of time to do anything in Standard. It's a good card, but to me, it's more of a commander card. Coming in at number 4 is Diagraph Colossus, up 328 to 670. This card looked amazing on camera this weekend. Like, when the opponent had out their Torrential Gearhulks and stuff like that, the zombie player could throw one of these out as like a 7/7 and hold that Gearhulk back and get in there for some damage. It was incredible. So again, yes, it's a rare. It's from Shadows, though, which was open probably the second least among contemporary Magic sets. So you do want to keep that in mind. But yeah, this card saw a pretty nice spike this week. Coming in number 3, Aetherworks Marvel, up $4.90 to $10. And you probably expected to see this, considering I mentioned Aetherworks Marvel probably about 50 times by this point in the video. But yeah, these decks look great this weekend. Now, there's different variants of them. I mean, you saw them in different color variations. You saw more controlling ones, more aggressive ones. Some were running Gearhulk, some were running 4 Ulamog, some were running 3, some were running 2. There are variants to this deck, actually a wide variety of variants to this deck. But at the end of the day, the common thread, of course, was this card. Coming in number 2, Relentless Dead, up $8.13 to $26. I mean, this card was just huge this weekend in these zombie decks, and of course the price point reflects it. Also, the fact that it's a mythic from Shadows over Innistrad is going to help it retain its value at least a little better than some other cards. But keep in mind, this is a huge increase. Definitely expect to snap back sooner than later. And coming in at number 1, Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger, back on top, going up $9.59 this week to $26.99. This card just looked amazing on camera. I mean, there were times when Marvel decks were behind, about to lose. They hit this and came back and won. And that's simple. I mean, the card is going to definitely garner attention when it's doing stuff like that on camera at the Pro Tour. Now, having said that, this is a huge spike. Yes, it will snap back. So if you don't need to pick these up for a tournament this weekend or something like that, I'd wait a little bit, let them stabilize back down. But keep in mind, this is a very, very good card. It still has legs in Standard, obviously, for the next few months. And Modern sees play there. Legacy sees play there. When this does rotate out of Standard, it's not going to completely crash. Like, it will go down, obviously. But I do feel like in the long run, this is a card that could have some value attached over time. Having said that, those are the cards for today. So I hope you found this helpful. I really wanted to put this video out. So if you were trying to collect cards to build a deck for Friday Night Magic or something like that, you kind of have an idea of what's going on in the market, and maybe that will influence some of your decisions. Maybe when you build these decks, which decks you build, that type of thing. Next Saturday, we'll revisit these cards again in the regular Market Watch, where we look at Standard, Modern, as well as Legacy. And in between now and then, we'll have more content on the channel. So until next time, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.